Thank you all for coming back to our research presentation today, Day 1, September 1, 2025. Our final presenter for today is McKenna Smith from Charlotte, North Carolina. Her research is titled Mercy in the Mirror. McKenna has developed an 8-week guide for women who are or have been incarcerated, helping them reflect on themselves and others with mercy and justice. A teacher and researcher, McKenna is preparing to become a Mercy Associate and is active in supporting underserved communities impacted by addiction, mental health, and incarceration. McKenna, you're welcome to share your research to us.
Thank you so much, Maya. Thank you, everybody, and welcome. I am so excited and honored to be here and to share this moment with you. Before I begin, I want to give a special shout out to the women at Maine Correctional Center because this presentation would not be possible had it not been for them. I'll get into my why in a minute, but just hold those women in your heart as we go through this presentation together. As Maya said, Mercy in the Mirror is an 8-week program that I designed to help women who have been impacted by incarceration. Around the world, so many women, incarcerated or not, suffer with self-confidence and self-esteem. And we've noticed that when people are incarcerated, their self-esteem is even less. Mercy in the Mirror is designed to help give their self-worth back to them. So, how mercy and justice can transform communities. So, why do women who are incarcerated matter to me? I have had the privilege of going to university to study criminal justice and political science, and I got to tour prisons while I was an undergrad, and one of the things that I saw while I was there is how women are undervalued in prisons. There are women at the North Carolina Corrections Facility for Women in Raleigh who are seemingly forgotten. There are so many women who are packed into small buildings and into small rooms. And then I did my graduate work, and through my graduate work, I got to work with the women at Maine Correctional Center, and that is one of the highlights of my life. Spending most weekends for a year in those prisons with those women was a highlight of my life because I got to see the beauty that they held within. So many of these women come from backgrounds of poverty or addiction or abuse. They come in with stories that are heartbreaking, and yet they're full of hope of who they can become and who they want to be. One of the women I worked with was a young mom. She has 3 small children at home, and she says her goal when she gets out of prison is to be the mother of the year. And I truly believe that that is possible for her. So this program is for her and for those women. Mental illness, addiction, and poverty are all areas of concern that I've grown up in and around. People in my life have been impacted by addiction and mental illness, and it's something that I've seen firsthand, that if you get treatment and if you get help, there's a world of possibility out there, and that everybody is deserving of that help. And I want to be a force for change behind that. Before we begin, there are a couple important definitions that we should get into. The first is mercy. Mercy is the act of compassion, and mercy is a two-way street. We cannot be compassionate. We cannot offer mercy to somebody who's unwilling to receive it, and we cannot receive mercy if we're not willing to take it. Justice is the equitable treatment of all people in a society, including those who are incarcerated. Shout out U.S. politicians. The displacement of women through incarceration looks at the societal factors of why women are incarcerated. These can be things such as poverty, addiction, and mental illness, or abuse, and they're really important to address so that way we stop the cycle. Rehabilitative justice is at the core of this program, and it's at the core of who I am as a person. It is the belief that people are capable of changing. It is the belief that if we address the root causes of crime, that people will not be inclined to commit crime anymore. Recognizing the problem, since 2000, the rate of women entering prisons has outpaced men. Now, there are still more men in prison today than there are women, but at the rate that it is going, it's about 54% women entering and 30% men entering every year. Eventually, that number will flip if we continue on this road. Looking inward, coming from the United States, I grew up with two parents who are some amazing criminal defense attorneys, and I was raised around what justice should look like and what it does look like. And unfortunately, they're not always the same thing. Nearly 200,000 women and girls are incarcerated at any given time in the United States. 1 in 8 parents who are behind bars will lose their rights to their children because they spend more than 24 months consecutively in prison. And 31% of women incarcerated have a serious mental health problem, versus 4.9% of women who are not or have not been incarcerated. Looking at two states, because the United States is a big place and the way prisons work is very different between them. First, I wanted to define what prisons and jail are, because I've been told that that's not a thing everywhere. In the United States, our carceral system is broken up into two, and I'm generalizing because there's more, but two main ways. If somebody is pre-trial, meaning that they have been charged with a crime but not convicted of it, they are usually going to be in a jail. Or if they have a sentence that is a year or less, they'll be in a jail. If they are in a prison, they are doing a lot more time. This is anywhere from 18 months to life, and some people are even on death row. These percentages that you see on the screen started in the 1970s and go through 2015. So since the 1970s to 2015, there's been a 2,000% increase in women entering jails in Maine. There's been an 800% increase in women entering prisons in Maine. In North Carolina, there's been over 1,000% increase of women entering jails, and there's been nearly a 400% increase in women entering prisons. Maine and North Carolina tell two very different stories, though. Maine offers programming for women. They offer wholesome activities that women are allowed to participate in. They have access to a chaplain who is awesome. She is a Sister of Mercy, and I just love her. But the issue is that there's so many women who are in these prisons that need help, that don't have access to it. One of the things that I did while I worked at Maine Correctional Center was volunteer with Kairos. And Kairos is a prison ministry that does a weekend program, and it's this really beautiful weekend of reflection for the women who are incarcerated. But there were so many women who wanted to participate, who either had too short of a sentence, who had too long of a sentence, or who weren't the right fit. They have to go through a mediation before they're able to participate to make sure they'd be a good fit, which I get. I understand you want to make sure that the person who's doing that is willing and able to do it. Great. But when you can only have 20 people in a space that has 150 women, that leaves a lot of people feeling left out. However, Maine is doing a lot more than a lot of other states are. North Carolina doesn't offer much programming for women at all. The programming that it does offer is for mothers, and it's for mothers who are about to be released from prison, which is very important, don't get me wrong, absolutely necessary, but there needs to be more. Looking outwards, had somebody told me a year ago how big of an impact Cambodia would have had on me, I probably would have laughed. But I truly loved my time in Cambodia, and coming back to do research, I was kind of heartbroken because we got to spend time with people in Cambodia who are doing such amazing work. And so to see the statistics coming out of Cambodia, where women make up nearly 9% of their prison population, is jarring. Most of the women in Cambodia who are behind bars are there for minor drug offenses. And unfortunately, minor drug offenses in typically Southeastern Asian countries carry really, really long sentences. So many of the women who are using drugs are doing it because they live in extreme poverty or they come from a family of addiction. There are so many reasons of why they got to that point. However, Cambodia has started to try and open treatment centers. The issue is that they are not well funded enough and they're not staffed enough and people don't often know about them. And so women aren't always being sent there at the rate that they should be. And also the need just outpaces the admittance. So what has caused this shift? I've mentioned these already, but I want to get into the weeds with them. Poverty is a really big factor with incarceration for anybody, but particularly women. Most women around the world who are in prison come from areas of extreme poverty. They are more likely to be incarcerated than anybody else. Mental illness and addiction is so widely untreated across the world. Even looking at my backyard in North Carolina, it's hard to get treatment. Treatment is expensive and it's hard to qualify for. And then abuse is a really big one. The United Nations has said that 1 in 3 women will be a victim of sexual or physical violence at some point in their life. When we look at that number for women who are incarcerated, that increases substantially. In the United States and the United Kingdom, research has been done that shows that over 70% of women who are incarcerated or have been incarcerated have been or will be abused at some point in their life. And many continue to be abused while they're in prison. A deeper look. In the United States, 58% of women who are behind bars are moms. In the United States, we have jails and prison systems that are set up to keep children out of our prison systems because we don't want to scar them for life. But it does scar them for life because we're separating them from their parent. We're separating them from their support system, just like we're separating their mom from that child. We've looked at other countries like El Salvador and Cambodia, who both allow women to keep their children with them up until the age of 5 or 7, depending on the country. This allows for better community relationships. It allows for women to feel empowered. It gives them parenting skills for when they are released. There are so many benefits to keeping kids with their parents. There are also a lot of programs that allow moms to leave on the weekends to go and spend the weekend with their kid. One of the things that Maine does really well is they offer a transitional program where if you have less than 2 years on your sentence, you move down the street and you get to go and work an actual job. You get to work at the local Chick-fil-A or you get to work in town, and the money you make gets to go back to your child, and your kid is allowed to come in and do puzzles with you, and they get to spend time with you. And it's a really wonderful program that has helped a lot of women succeed. The next big thing is the war on drugs, especially in the United States. It's a system of criminalizing addiction, especially in low-income areas. In the United States, if you are using crack cocaine, you are more likely to get a longer sentence than if you are using powder cocaine. The difference is that black men are usually the ones who use crack cocaine, and white men are the ones who use powder cocaine. And unfortunately, that's not changed since the 1970s. A lack of mental health intervention. Especially in poor and rural areas, communities don't have access to mental health. They don't have access to people who are able to care for them in the way that they need to be cared for. And most people aren't willing to invest time into those communities because they don't have a big population. They're not the ones who are going to vote for them. And finally, racial implications. Around the world, we see that areas with minorities are more likely, the areas of minorities are more likely to be incarcerated than other people in that community. In the United States, white and black people commit crimes at similar rates. However, black people are not only more likely to be policed, they are more likely to be charged and convicted, and often find themselves with longer sentences, even if you've got the same arrest record as a white person. So why does this matter? Globally, women who commit crimes aren't doing it for a thrill. They are doing it as a form of survival. We hear so often of women who are addicted and it's causing them to commit crime while they're high. We hear so often of women who are stealing food or diapers for their children. Women just want to survive. In the United States, 1 in 2 families have been impacted by incarceration. And we are going down a road where we're not empowering people who have addictions or mental illness to get better. Instead, we're criminalizing them even more. What we need now more than ever are programs that extend merciful compassion to these people. So why should we care about women who are incarcerated? Research proves that art therapy is a really great way to bring down recidivism rates. But before we get into that, women who have been incarcerated suffer from a low self-esteem. And once they do art therapy programs, they improve their outlook on themselves. And as they improve their outlook on themselves, they improve their chances of not coming back to jail or prison. It allows for an expression of feeling that they have so often not been allowed to have. We look at women who come from areas of poverty and especially in immigrant or low-income communities, they don't have people who are able to, therapy isn't something that is big in those communities. And so these women don't know how to express themselves. Giving them an outlet allows them to see themselves in a way that they've never seen before. So introducing Mercy in the Mirror. I have spent the past year creating an 8-week guide on the intersection of mercy and justice through art and self-reflection. This is something that I am so proud of, and I owe a lot to the women in this room for getting me here. That's when we were in Cambodia, the reason I have this title is because of Libby, and so I'm so grateful to be here to show this to you guys. So Mercy in the Mirror aims to help lower recidivism rates for women who are facing or have been incarcerated. The hope is that through the 8-week program, they learn how to find some dignity and self-worth and love for themselves and for other people. Mercy in the Mirror is based on the Bangkok and Mandela rules by the United Nations. One of the side effects of incarceration is that it strips women of their dignity and their value. Mercy in the Mirror hopes to give it back. The Bangkok rules. I won't go into each individual rule, but what you should take away from this slide is that women have different needs than men. Women are going to respond differently to justice, to rehabilitative approaches to justice than men will. Women respond to art. Women respond to talking to each other. Women are going to respond to group settings. With the Mandela rules, we just celebrated 10 years this past July, and this is such a big moment for our community. It talks about how prisons can build communities and how they don't have to strip people of being away from the rest of the world. One of the things that they did to celebrate the 10 years of Mandela rules was they interviewed women who have done programs in prison. One of them was Lama from Beirut, Lebanon, and she says that you can build hope with your own hands. So this 8-week course is designed for women who have a history of incarceration, but also have dealt with mental illness, addiction, and/or poverty or abuse. It's for women who lack self-love and self-care and don't have a support system or don't know that they have a support system. Mercy in the Mirror wants to shine a light on the goodness that we all have to offer. It needs a community around them because communities are how we succeed. So, a roadmap to justice. Every week, there's a central theme, and each week, women will be asked to create 2 pieces of art. Some weeks, this will be self-portraits. Other weeks, it could be self-portraits and a word cloud, It's really up to the women. I created an outline for it, which will be published on the website in the coming weeks, but it's really up to the moderator and the women who participate on what they would like to do for it. The topics include Who Am I?, which looks at, before we even get into what mercy and justice are, we need to know who we are. And so this is a week where they do a self-portrait of themselves. And they say, this is who I am right now, and this is who I want to be. So they have 2 works of art. And then the next week, they do What is Mercy? And then they go through mercy towards self and others, practical applications of mercy, which are based on the corporal works of mercy, spiritual works of mercy, which are based on the spiritual works of mercy, the intersectionality of mercy and justice. And for so many of these women, this is important because they come from backgrounds where they've never had either of those, especially dealing with a criminal justice system that isn't always just or merciful. Week 7 is Mercy in My Life, where we talk about the past 6 weeks and going forward and what that looks like. And then week 8, we do a conclusion and graduation. And this is something that I'm so excited to see. When women complete the program, we frame their artwork, we let them title it, we show them, like, they're allowed to put any captions they want on it, and then they can invite their support around them. And the hope is that we will invite support from the local community to come in, whether that's parole officers or local politicians or church leaders, people to come and support these women and let them know that they are loved. And we do an art gallery, and the artwork is shown, and these women get to be proud, and they get to show how they have grown and how they are going. These are some artwork examples that I had some people in my life who have been impacted by mental illness and addiction do. And I have to point out this one on the far end, the one of the tree. It's one of my favorite pieces of art. She was asked to draw a self-portrait of all the good things and all the bad things. And so she put all the things she doesn't like about herself on the bottom. And then on the top where the tree is, it's all the things that she loves about herself. And I love that because it's bearing fruit. This woman is bearing fruit. She has something to offer. And for her to have that recognition is really important, and I'm very proud of her. I also love this one on the end. This is somebody who deals with mental health issues and feels like they have to wear a mask around people. And so it's an image of somebody wearing a mask and feeling very dark and feeling very dismayed. And I just love that. The middle one is an example of what the corporal works of mercy are. And it's a little comic book, sketchbook as a reminder for them. Every week has the same similar structure. There's coming together, opening prayer, a check-in, doing the lesson, doing the artwork, closing remarks, and closing prayer. But the whole idea is the community aspect. We also want to focus every few weeks to do a check-in individually with these women, because this is hard work, and there are parts of yourself that you're not going to want to share in a group setting that you may still be feeling, and so that's really important. Framework: for Mercy in the Mirror to run successfully, we need classroom space, we need teachers who are willing to take the time to learn the program, we need excited participants. We cannot have somebody come in because they think that it's gonna they're doing it to make other people happy. You need to be here because you want to be better and because you want to see yourself with love and kindness. We'll need art supplies, the teaching manual, which will be online soon, and teacher training. In the United States, we don't have a lot of research on women. So this is done in California based on men, but it shows that men who had access to educational programs were 43% less likely to recommit crime than people who didn't have that access. I'm really excited to announce that starting in summer 2026, Mercy in the Mirror is being used as part of the framework for an undergraduate course at St. Joseph's College of Maine that I will be teaching. It's also being pitched to prison chaplains across the United States to be used in their prison settings, especially in the southern United States. And while this program was designed for women who are incarcerated, it could be applied to so many people. It could be applied to high school students, to at-risk youth, to your church group, to anybody who suffers with self-doubt and self-love and self-worth. This could work for you, and I hope it does. And then to quote my Star Wars queen, Carrie Fisher, take your broken heart and turn it into art. Thank you.
Thank you, McKenna, for raising to us this less talked social justice in our society. The 8-week guide, thank you for incorporating or highlighting the mercy lens. Thank you so much for your work. So we are opening the table now for questions from online. Thank you.
So from Sister Dale Jarvis, there's a message. Thank you, McKenna. Your presentation reflects the woman of mercy I have always seen in you. And then we have a follower from North Carolina who says, thank you for shedding light on a topic that needs greater awareness, especially around the implications of race, addiction, and systemic bias. How can Mercy Association partner with you in supporting women re-entering society with dignity?
I love that question. And also, thank you, Sister Dale. She was my mentor. I think that Mercy Association could be a big help for this. Around the world, you guys have access to prisons and jails, and you can work with women in your own communities. Take this program and either work with women who are currently incarcerated, or if you know of women who have been incarcerated and are now on the outside, get a group together. And beyond that, look at women who live in addiction areas or levels of high poverty. They don't have to have had a background of incarceration for this to matter to them. Places like the Philippines with Joellen's work, I feel like this could really tie in with what she's doing. There's such a broad implication of what this could do, and I would love to see the Mercy Associates and the Mercy Sisters take that on.
Thank you. Any question from the audience? Jess, please.
Thank you so much, McKenna. It's Jess from Australia. Thank you, firstly, for raising the awareness of women in particular and the dignity of these women in the prison system, and particularly worldwide. I know in America, terrible, but I'm sure in all of our countries it would be very similar. How do you foresee your vision and hope getting embedded into prisons? I'm sure one little step's going to make the difference, but you kind of need a bit of a train-the-trainer model, but how do you foresee it starting?
Yeah, thank you, Jess. I see it starting by having people from this community take it there. There are people from back home who I know are watching who work in the criminal justice community, and so I hope that they take this and take it seriously and bring it back with them. I would encourage anybody who works in spaces with people who are disadvantaged or underserved to bring it to them. Prisons can often be a hard time to get into, but I think they're absolutely a worthwhile cause to try and do so. North Carolina is a frustrating place to live because it takes a year to get in as a volunteer, whereas Maine, I was in within 30 days. So, yeah.
I'm Lucia from Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you very much, McKenna, for that inspiring thing that you are doing to women who are in prison. My question is, from your presentation, you've said that most of these women have been incarcerated because of poverty, and some of them have been there because they are trying to support the children, their mothers. What mechanism has the government put in place to support them as they get out of prison, not to get in prison again? Thank you.
Lucia, I love that question, and I'm heartbroken to tell you that the government doesn't do enough. There are some places that will support women for up to 2 years after they've been released, but after 2 years, women tend to fall off and they continue back into a cycle. My dream, if I had all the money and power in the world, is to start a program that follows women who have been incarcerated for 5 to 10 years after their release to make sure that they always have a job and that they always have housing and that their kids always have food on the table. Because I think that if we continue to support these women far beyond while they are incarcerated, that's how they're going to succeed. If we just support somebody while they're in our face, that's great and we should be happy, but it would matter more if we continue that work for a much longer period of time.
Yes, thank you. From the online questions, Angela, please.
So we have two questions. The first one is a simple, I think, one. Will the program you're offering at St. Joseph College be online?
Yes.
There you go. There's a simple answer. Thank you so much, McKenna. And the second one is, congratulations, McKenna. Thank you for your very informative and passionate presentation. The stats are daunting. What motivates you to keep advocating for women?
As long as women exist, I will advocate for them. That's women deserve the world, and for so many of them have been looked over and passed over simply because they're a woman. And as a woman myself, and as somebody who has grown up and around this work, I will not let that stand. I have no problem with this being the hill I die on.
Beautiful commitment, McKenna. Thank you for that. Big hand for McKenna.